The Dalai Lama tells us, if you want others to be happy, practice compassion. And if you want to be happy, practice compassion. Hello, and welcome to my week 2 video from the Anger Cure. Over weeks 2 and 3, I will be looking at the ideas for developing compassion, both towards ourselves and others, as a foundation stone for helping us move away from resentment and hate and towards a more peaceful acceptance. These values are essential in helping us let go of old wounds so that we may be open to greater forgiveness. Emily will be exploring forgiveness in more detail in her videos, but today I will be focusing on developing compassion for yourself. We live in a narcissistic age, epitomized by social media and the selfie. On the one hand, there is a growing sense that we can be authentic, expressing our true nature wherever and whenever possible. Yet, at the same time, there seems to be an ever-increasing cost to being outside of the group, whatever that may be for you. Speak out of line, and you risk extreme condemnation from the anonymous hordes of social media that send our own inner critic into overdrive. No wonder rates of anxiety are rocketing throughout the Western world. If we are not careful, we find ourselves striving towards an imagined state of perfection that we can never achieve. As a result, our own inner critic increases in volume, leaving us feeling anxious, depressed, or simply empty. I will talk more about the inner critic when we do a module on the TA concept of ego states in the next couple of months. The most effective antidote to our narcissistic culture and our own quest for ever greater self-esteem is to develop self-compassion. At its core, anger can be seen as a cry for help, like a baby's cry when it needs feeding or changing. Anger is often a symptom that our own needs are not being met, either physically, emotionally, or relationally. And like the baby's cry, our anger stems from some perceived threat, as well as anguish feelings such as anxiety, fear, shame, powerlessness, and self-doubt. In this context, anger becomes a desperate cry for connection and love. In some ways, a harsh but failed attempt at self-compassion. Instead of nurturing us, our anger drives others away, leaving us feeling disconnected, lonely, yet filled with guilt for our so-called bad behavior. The author and American Buddhist Pema Chodron says, as the barriers come down around our own hearts, we are less afraid of other people. We are more able to hear what is being said, see what is in front of our eyes, and work in accord with what happens rather than struggle against it. In other words, when you have compassion for yourself and others, it is easier to be compassionate. When you have compassion for yourself, it is easier to be compassionate towards others. You are more likely to be able to put yourself in others' shoes and understand what will make their hearts sing. Self-compassion has been linked to greater well-being, including diminished anxiety and depression, better emotional coping skills, and more compassion for others, as I mentioned. Dr. Kristin Neff is an expert on self-compassion and the author of Self-Compassion, Stop Beating Yourself Up and Leave Insecurity Behind. She defines self-compassion as what you'd show a loved one struggling with a similar situation. Neff identifies three core components to self-compassion: self-kindness, common humanity, and mindfulness. Put simply, self-kindness is the ability to be gentle and understanding with yourself in times of suffering. Common humanity is about understanding how your experience may be common to many. It helps you realize that you are not alone in your suffering. And finally, mindfulness, as we have talked about in previous modules, helps improve your ability to observe life in a non-judgmental way without getting caught up in the flow of drama that may surround you. So, how do we go about building self-compassion? Dr. Neff outlines a 5-step process. Firstly, consider how you would treat somebody else. If a friend or loved one is in your situation, how would you treat them? What would you want to say to them? It's amazing how often we can find compassion and empathy for others and not for ourselves. Secondly, be mindful of your language. Frequently, when working with clients, I notice that the language is harsh and self-critical. And often they're not aware of this until I reflect their words back to them. Listen to your self-talk. Would you talk to a loved one like this? If not, why do it to yourself? Number 3, comfort yourself with a physical gesture. Kind physical gestures have an immediate effect on our bodies, activating the soothing parasympathetic system. Neff said specifically physical gestures get you out of your head and drop you into your body, which is important since the head loves to run away with its storylines. For instance, put your hands over your heart, simply holding your arm. Give yourself a hug. Any gesture will do. Number 4, memorize a set of compassionate phrases. Whenever you find yourself saying, "I'm horrible," it helps to have a few phrases at the ready. Pick statements that really resonate with you. Combining that with a physical gesture, like hands over your heart, is especially powerful. Neff suggests using some of the following phrases. This is a moment of suffering. Suffering is part of life. May I be kind to myself in this moment. May I give myself the compassion I need. And finally, practice meditation. As we have discussed in previous modules, meditation can play a role in helping you retrain the brain in ways that make you more compassionate and empathic. Can't get my words out today. By practicing meditation, self-compassionate gestures and self-soothing become a more natural day-to-day process. There are many great guided meditations on YouTube, and I've also added a link to one of Dr. Neff's guided meditations in the course notes. This loving kindness meditation helps develop an attitude of love both towards yourself and others, and is my personal favourite meditation practice. Okay, so that's it for me this week. Join me next week when I explore developing compassion for others. But for now, bye.